be having a fire drill, which will be around 11 o'clock. There's nothing to panic, there's no fire, it's just a drill that they have regularly. But the alarms will go on and there will be announcements, but you don't have to panic or run. You can just go on with, we can go on with our summit proceedings as the way we have been doing since yesterday. It is just a drill that the hotel has to follow. We will remind you again at 11 o'clock. Thank you. And now to begin with the technical session 4. I have the proud privilege in inviting on stage our distinguished chairman for this session, Dr. P.N. Thakur, INSA Emeritus Scientist and ex-director ICAR, IISS. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together to welcome him. Professor Dr. Pranna Thakur has 40 years of research and teaching experience and has published about 165 research papers, 40 scholarly review papers, 45 technical and popular papers, 25 chapters and papers in books and bulletin, 4 bulletin and 3 books. He served as lecturer, assistant professor, soil chemist, senior soil scientist, and ICAR project coordinator, micronutrient at PAU Ludhiana, principal scientist, ICAR emeritus scientist, and INSA senior scientist, IARI, founder director, ICAR, Indian Institute of Soil Science, Bhopal, and currently the INSA emeritus scientist. He received several awards and honors, namely Hari Om Ashram Trust Award, Platinum Jubilee Commemoration Award, Honorary Membership ISSS, Lifetime Achievement SN Ranade Memorial Award, Excellence in Micronutrient Research, FAI Silver Jubilee Award of Excellence, the 12th International Soil Science Congress Commemoration Award, Sub-Project on Micronutrient, and Member Executive Committee National Food Security Mission since 2014. And may I request Dr. R.K. Tewatia, Director Agricultural Science, FAI, to kindly do the honors of welcoming and honoring our Honorable Chairperson for this session, Dr. Tewatia, with a floral bouquet and a shawl. Thank you very much indeed, sir. I also take this privilege to invite eminent speakers of this session. I invite Dr. Sohela Akhtar, CSO and Head Soil Science Division, BARI, Ministry of Agriculture, Government of the People's Republic of Bangladesh. Let's put our hands together to welcome. Thank you very much indeed, ma'am. She's also the principal investigator for IZA Bari project in Bangladesh. Once again, a very warm welcome to you, ma'am. It's an honor to have you here with us, gracing the dais. I also invite Mr. B.B. Singh, Vice President, SCM and Corporation Affairs, IRC Agrochemicals, Kolkata. A very warm welcome to you, sir. Mr. Dale Eddington, Purchasing and Production Manager, Advanced Micronutrient Products, Michigan, USA. A very warm welcome to you, sir. It's an honor to have you here with us today for this session. So, ladies and gentlemen, before we begin with the proceedings of the technical session, we have the recap of day 1. And to present that, I would like to invite Mr. Anuj Sharma from PwC India. A warm round of applause to welcome him.
So good morning, everyone. I hope you had a very good learning experience yesterday. And this session particularly reminds you of some of the general pointers or discussion that we had yesterday in the sessions. In fact, there were a lot of points which came up that we have tried to capture in this, and maybe for this particular day or this particular session, it's good that we continue with the discussion pointers that we had yesterday. No, I don't have. So the session started it with a inaugural session, and I think there were major discussion pointers which happened. This was graced by Honorable Cabinet Minister of Agriculture and Farmer Welfare as well. So the discussion pointers revolved around that, yes, it's an established fact that Indian soils are deficient in zinc, boron, iron, and many different other micronutrients. And the fortification of fertilizers can actually help in promoting use of micronutrients. There was also a point which was raised by, I think, the FAI head. He insisted that there is some disparity in terms of the taxation and the GST of micronutrients and the bulk fertilizers, which is causing some hindrance in, in terms of the promotion of these fertilizers. The subsidy on micronutrients are also not, widespread. It is only focused upon very few products, and this has to be taken care of. That's what some of the pointers which came up. Soil health is very critical. This was one of the points which was given by the Honorable Cabinet Minister. He said that the soil health is a very critical parameter, and some of the initiatives such as the soil health card which have been taken by the government, there needs to be, all-round kind of involvement, which also needs to be taken care of by the industry people, by different organizations, research institutes, not just the government. So the second session was basically a technical session, as you would know. So which had these pointers where we came across that not all micronutrients are, recommended for fortification as per the government orders. There are challenges which exist in the fortifications, that the precise dosage manufacturing is a difficulty. I think one of the guys from Coromandel, they mentioned this. Expert advice, soil health card, and right micronutrients are essential for the marketing strategy. One of the very interesting point that came up yesterday, that the kind of prices which the farmers are willing to pay, they are just 50 rupees per bag. So the fortification thing, since it's a value addition for the manufacturers, this point is a very valid point which was raised, and we can discuss it in these sessions as well. Promotion of fortified fertilizers needs to be done, and there was an important thing which came up. It's not working actually. I have to check that. I want to go to check the thing. Second session I was on. Yeah. So I think we discussed this, the technical session one. We had three main topics which were covered, which was zinc and health, zinc and crops, and zinc initiatives that have been taken globally. We also talked about key deficiency symptoms due to zinc and the key impacts of hidden hunger. So by hidden hunger, people understand that since the micronutrients deficiency is there in the crops, it also goes into the human health, and which is causing the hidden hunger. Boron is an essential micronutrients in plants, important for root growth, pollination, and overall growth. So this was some of the technical bits which were discussed for the boron. Importance of micronutrients for human health, including importance of iron in women health, it was also discussed. We had a dignitary from AIMS, and she was discussing this. There was also a discussion around various toxicities that can happen due to deficiency of micronutrients. Technical session 2, this revolved around concepts of georeferencing and micronutrients index. Professor Shukla raised these points, and these are very valid points which the industry people as well as the different institutions can look at. Not many research laboratories are present in India which help in analysis of micronutrient deficiencies, and maybe this is some point which the government institutions can take care of. Then there is the concept of hidden hunger, as I already discussed. Micronutrients usage should be need-based and should be promoted accordingly. And then there was an industry need that they need to collaborate with government. It's not just the government that have to take care of all the mapping of the micronutrient deficiency at each and every level. In terms of panel discussion one, this was the thing that we already discussed. So one of the points which was mentioned was that there is a need of a white paper for the, discussing upon the global impacts of the micronutrient deficiencies, which can, create an urge or an awareness amongst different stakeholders of this industry, and in fact the government as well. So this was a very valid point, and we thought maybe we can discuss it moving ahead. So thank you so much. This was the recap, and we hope that this will be another learning day for all of you. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much indeed. So, ladies and gentlemen, that was the recap we went through of day one. And moving ahead with the proceedings of day two, we now have technical session 4. In this session, we will be presenting on IZA Bari Zinc Fertilizer Project highlights, innovative technology in fortified and customized fertilizers, new and innovative product and technology in micronutrient fertilizers. And for all this, we have about 1 hour 30 minutes, which includes the opening and closing remarks by our distinguished chairperson, presentations by each of our eminent speakers for about 20 minutes each, so that we are left with some time, about 8 to 10 minutes for question and answers with our audience. And on that note, I hand over to our chairperson, Dr. P.N. Tucker. Over to you, sir, for your opening remarks and to kindly carry forward the proceedings of the session. And let's once again put our hands together to welcome him.
Thank you very much for the nice word. Good morning to all the delegates on the stage and off the stage. And ladies and gentlemen, I'm thankful to the organizers of this Global Micronutrient Summit for inviting me and chairing this important session. The technical session has the importance as it will address technologies for manufacturing new, innovative, fortified, customized products of micronutrient, of a micronutrient or a multi-micronutrient. That is important in that aspect. For specific soil, crop, region, to meet the requirement of the crops or a cropping system for attaining maximum or optimum yield. Then another paper on this is from IZA Bari. We deal with the zinc research project, and we will deal with the that paper first. So I request the speaker to take only 20 minutes for presentation and leave 5 to 10 minutes for question, answer, and discussion. in this session, we have 3 papers, so we have 90 minutes. So 60 minutes for the presentation, 30 minutes for the discussions. So I will make my observation remarks at the end of the paper or wrap up at the end. Thank you very much, and let us see what is there in the store from the learned speaker on these important topics. Thank you.
Honorable Chairman of this session, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum and very good morning. Firstly, I want to thank the organizer to invite me in this summit to present our project highlights in Bangladesh, collaborating with International Zinc Association. Bangladesh is a highly densely populated area. Our land is limited. Floodplains is only 80%, hills 12%, and terrace 8%. Our region, our zone is divided into ecological zones 30. In late 1970s, in Bangladesh, zinc deficiency was first identified. About 45% children in Bangladesh suffer from zinc deficiency, and dietary zinc deficiency is a major nutritional disorder of the poor households who heavily subsist on rice. The majority people of Bangladesh are taking zinc through foods less than the RDI value 12 milligram per day. In Bangladesh, our soil is deficient about 70% area and highly deficient 30% area. In this country, severely deficient are Rajshahi, Pabna, Kushtia, Faridpur, Jashore, Borishal, and Kumilla Jela. Zinc deficiency is acute and widespread in calcareous, light textured, and irrigated soils where high-yielding variety of crops are intensively cultivated. Our farmers mainly use NPK and sulfur fertilizers and reluctant to apply micronutrients. That's why our zinc and boron are very deficient in Bangladesh. This imbalanced use of fertilizer causes zinc deficiency in soil, crops, and public health is the ultimate victim for this havoc. The zinc deficient soils are also behind the low zinc diets of the country, which is responsible for stunting growth of about 50% of the population, and children are the worst victim. Due to the persistent effect of zinc deficiency in soil and crops, about 55% of the populations have zinc deficiency problem now. In our agriculture system, most of our cropping system are rice-based, which we grow under submerged conditions, and zinc deficiency very often occurs in wetland rice soils. You see this system, no non-rice, fallow rice system, non-rice, rice system, and now 3 rice is also cultivated by the farmers. And nowadays, we grow 4 crops in a year. This intensively cultivation makes our soil zinc deficient. In Bangladesh, we generally use zinc sulfate monohydrate and zinc sulfate heptahydrate. And these were found equally efficient for correcting zinc deficiency either through soil and foliar application. And we recommended 2 to 5 kg zinc per hectare for crops for soil application. And in case of foliar application, 0.3 to 0.6% zinc sulfate solution is recommended for acute deficiency in standing growing crops. Commonly used zinc fertilizer in Bangladesh is zinc sulfate monohydrate and zinc sulfate heptahydrate due to their solubility. Zinc fertilizer recommendation for crops as soil application varies 2 to 6 kg zinc per hectare. From 1980 to 2004, zinc is stagnant, but after 2004 and upwards, it is increasing the consumption. So, addressing zinc malnutrition in Bangladesh, we go for crop biofortification, and Bangladesh Rice Research Institute, they released several rice cultivar which is zinc enriched, and recently Bangladesh Agriculture Research Institute, they released wheat and lentil varieties for zinc rich varieties. And for agronomic fortification, we go for zinc fertilizer promotion, zinc fertilizer recommendation program for different crops and cropping pattern. And this is the zinc-rich crop varieties released in Bangladesh. We released several rice variety, wheat, recently, this is Bari GOM 33. It is zinc and iron rich as well as blast resistance variety. So, Soil Science Division, Bangladesh Agriculture Research Institute conducted collaborative project on promotion of zinc fertilizer use in Bangladesh for food and nutrition security with International Zinc Association and Zinc Nutrient Initiative. Our project highlights our approach was research training program, field day, workshop, seminar, and communication material. We conducted field experiments in different zinc deficient areas of different agricultural zones of Bangladesh. This is the sixth study location of our project. We go different, conducted different experiments on effect of different levels of zinc fertilizer for high zinc accumulation crops, performance of zinc urea briquette and zinc core urea on yield and zinc uptake by different crops, and effect of zinc fertilizer application on yield and zinc accumulation in edible parts of crops in different rice-based cropping systems. We, in case of effect of different levels of zinc fertilizer for high zinc accumulation in wheat, we observed that wheat grain yield was increased up to 6 kg per hectare zinc application, but grain zinc content was increased with increased zinc application. In case of zinc urea briquette and zinc core urea granule, we see that zinc urea briquette and zinc core urea increased yield and grain zinc content in maize more than those for zinc urea pre-yield. Zinc urea 1% increase more yield and zinc content in maize than zinc core urea 0.5%. We go for the potato maize T-amount cropping pattern for zinc uptake by crops. We see that due to the zinc content increased with increased zinc application, the uptake was highest in case of potato, maize, and T-amount with 9 kg zinc per hectare. But the rice equivalent yield was the highest in case of 6 kg zinc per hectare. Same phenomenon was observed in case of wheat T-Aush T-amount cropping pattern. This T-Aush is our summer rice and T-amount is our monsoon rice. We see that the percent yield increase of different non-price crops, the highest yield was performed in case of 6 kg per hectare. And for rice crops, this 6 kg also increased the highest yield. In case of percent zinc content, we saw that the highest zinc content was performed from 9 kg in case of rice crops and for non-rice crops. This is some pictorial view in our project area. We conducted different programs for awareness, farmers training, field day, extension workers, scientific assistants as they work in the field with us. This is the farmers training, field day. The local farmers showed their interest to use zinc in their crop field, and they repeatedly wanted us to go for many more field experiments with the zinc application. We also trained the agriculture extension officer so that they can go for the field, for the farmer to awareness with zinc fertilizer. Our newspaper publication in daily newspaper for public awareness about zinc use. And we publish newsletter, magazine, Bangladesh Fertilizer Association magazine leaflet. We also aware the public with the desk calendar, booklet, and poster. We conducted a national workshop on promotion of zinc fertilizer used in Bangladesh for food and nutrition security, because our present government is emphasized on food and nutrition security. So, from this project, we can conclude that zinc core urea and zinc urea briquette perform better than pre-yield zinc. However, they are not available, so zinc sulfate can be used in soil application. Zinc up to 6 kg per hectare outperform over no use of zinc fertilizer. Zinc content in edible part of crops increased with increased zinc application. Farmers have shown interest in using zinc with NPK's fertilizer for crops. It is possible to bring zinc fertilizer into the mainstream of balanced fertilizer management and increase zinc fertilizer use in Bangladesh. We acknowledged International Zinc Association, Zinc Nutrient Initiative, and Bangladesh Fertilizer Association. Thank you.
The topic is open for any question, answer. Anybody have any question? Yes, Dr. Narwal.
Sorry? Yeah.
And you summarize with the 6 kilogram zinc per hectare. May I know, is this single year data or 3, 2, 4, 5 years data? Because there may be a cumulative effect and there we can go the reduced level also.
So we observed from a 2 years field trial in different location, 6 location,
Okay.
and different crops as well.
Thank you, sir. My submission is that in case of the rate and frequency trials, I think we have to go for the conclusions after 4 or 5 years so that we can really visualize the cumulative effect and we can go the ideal level of application. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Ratan. Please hand over the mic to Dr. Ratan here, sitting here in front.
I'm Abhay Kumar from Dayal Fertilizers. Thank you, ma'am, for enlightening this audience about Bangladesh status of zinc. And I just had a question. You know, we being a zinc manufacturer for all 40 years, is there a scarcity of zinc sulfate in Bangladesh at all, or you are able to get good quality zinc sulfate there?
Thank you for your good question. No, there's no scarcity in our country, zinc fertilizer, but the quality is not ensured in farmers' level. So we try for the good quality zinc sulfate insurance. Thank you.
Good morning, ma'am. I'm Dr. Shubhendu from Rallis India Limited. You talked about zinc core urea. Is it that IFGC technology of granulation where zinc is the nucleus of granular urea? Is it that same technology you're talking?
Yes, from IFGC we got it.
And do you have a manufacturing unit of that?
No, not yet.
Okay, because that is one thing which we are yet to experiment in India. Thanks.
Thank you.
Good morning, ma'am. I have a question. Most of the recommendations, they are saying that application of 2 to 5 kg or 1 to 5 kg zinc is sufficient for majority of the crops. Conversely, your results are saying that application of zinc at 6 kg per hectare is good for most of the crops.
Yes.
Are you under fertilizing the crops, or your recommendations are demanding the revisit?
This as because the recommendations prior, our experimentation is 2 to 5 kg per hectare, and every 5 years we upgrade our fertilizer recommendation guide. So we always try to increase, because the new variety, which is high yielding varieties, they need more nutrient. So in this 2 years project, we saw that the 6 kg is performed better.
Okay, thank you.
If there's no more question, thank you, madam.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I think in Bangladesh, the situation is not very different from what we have in India. The magnitude of zinc deficiency almost is the same in that area. It is about 70% soils they are deficient, 30% are acutely deficient, and 6 kg of the application of the zinc produce the optimum yield of the end. They have also released zinc-enriched rice varieties in that area to meet the zinc requirement of the human being, and that is a good achievement in that respect. And they have also responses to the crops, rice, maize, wheat, like that. So I wish you all the best, and hope you will take care of the zinc deficiency for the high productivity in that area. Now the next two speakers, they will be dealing with the important topic of manufacturing or developing new products, customized fertilizer, fortified fertilizer, with the innovative approach. What is the innovative approach? We would like to hear from the learned speaker, and invite Dr. B.B. Singh first to make his presentation.
Thank you. Yeah. Good morning to all of you. Let me clarify, I am not a doctor, but yes, I do spend a lot of time with the doctor, so also get recognized as a doctor. I am a postgraduate in agriculture and purely a sales and marketing person. I'll be making some scientific comments, so if there is something which is not in sync with most of the scientists, please bear with me. Before I get into the topic, I just wanted to give you a brief background of the company which I come from. I am working with IRC Agrochemicals. This is a new company in India. It's a Indorama group of company. And Indorama Group is a multinational company, which is, the good thing is that it's a multinational company owned by an Indian. And it is $18 billion company, that is annual turnover, operating 74 manufacturing units in 36 countries across the world. We have a large setup of fertilizers in Nigeria and Senegal, where we are manufacturing urea, all the phosphatic fertilizers, and phosphoric acid. This company, Indorama Group of companies, they acquired this business of phosphate fertilizers in India last year in June 18. So this is the first business which this company, Indorama Group of company, has acquired in India. And this was acquired from Tata Chemicals. And manufacturing facility is located at Haldia. And we do about 1.5 million tons of phosphatic fertilizers annually. Out of my own curiosity, I just wanted to find out when this deal happened, how much did they pay for the plant manufacturing unit, how much did they pay for the employees. So it's a very interesting point, and you might be interested in that. So I'm just taking 1 minute to explain that. To my surprise, I came to know that company has been, this phosphate business from Tata Chemicals has been purchased for 75 crores of rupees, and all that they have done is the brand name Paras, which commands a premium of almost 500 rupees per ton in the eastern geography of India. 1.5 million tons into 500 tons is what they have paid. I thought, white hairs, so much of experience, manufacturing facility, at least they will give some money for that. They said, everything free, I will pay only for the brand. So investment in the brand matters a lot in fertilizers. That's the point I wanted to drive. With this background, I just wanted to move on to the topic, which is fortified and customized fertilizer. We had a round of discussion yesterday, so I'm not repeating what we discussed on fortified fertilizers. We'll move straight to the customized fertilizer. This presentation will be available. It's open for everybody, so you can have a look at it. Customized fertilizer is one such policy. I would say that in the last 1.5 decades in fertilizer sector, this is the best work which has happened in fertilizer sector. And although it has not gone too far, but yes, the quality of work which has gone into it certainly is commendable. A lot of science has gone into it. So I'll just explain that. But yesterday, I just want to recollect that yesterday I made a point that, there is always a gap between the scientific findings and the policy. And to my understanding, policy is decided by the politician, the government, and scientific findings are by the scientist. Most of the time, I'll just, give you an example that we are talking so much about soil health card today that out of 138 holdings, that is the size of plot, which are there in the country, almost every plot has got a soil health card. When I get a soil health card as a farmer, I get very excited, go to the market, and when I go to the market, I look at the fertilizers. Now the soil health card suggesting me to use more MOP, more DAP, reduce urea consumption. When I check the prices of the fertilizer, I find urea is subsidized in India to the extent of 75%. When I look at the other products, I find that subsidy is only 30%. Now, whether I believe what is there in the market or I believe what scientific findings are, this is the question which we need to answer. That's where the farmer's mind changes, based on what is available in the marketplace is suggesting something else, and what is scientists saying is something else. So that's where the policy and the market, the gap which we find, same thing has happened in the case of customized fertilizer. I'll explain that in, going forward. This is the first plant of customized fertilizer in India. Now, also I need to clarify here that these all works which I'm going to present doesn't belong to Indorama, but Indorama has purchased this facility, the phosphate business. Although the plant has been sold to Yara, the brand name is to Indorama. So that also is a very, very, different anomaly. So this plant which we are seeing here is the first customized fertilizer plant in India, established in near urea facility in Babrala in Uttar Pradesh. 58 crores of rupees was spent to establish this plant, most modern plant to manufacture customized fertilizer on fusion blend technology. The product was launched in November 2010, and with a lot of excitement and everything, because after a long time, new type of fertilizer, innovative type of fertilizer was getting introduced. It was widely covered by the newspapers. Plenty of excitement in the marketplace as the material reached. A lot of excitement in the farmers, and they came across and looked at it. So this was the starting point. Now come the real picture. The real picture is, just to explain what is customized fertilizer, you can look at it that, a practice adopted by the farmers to apply fertilizer for each entire area as well as each crop is the same. So he is not kind of differentiating whether he has to apply it differently, mixing the different granules, like you find urea is in prills, DAP in granules, potash in crystal, zinc is powder. So it's because they have a different granulometry, so it is scientifically also not possible to mix it in a homogeneous manner. So there will be some difference when you apply, and as a result, the use efficiency goes down. And, the best approach to apply fertilizer is that if all the, types of granules are put together are grinded and, mixed together and granulated so that each granule carry the amount of nutrient which is required for the area, required for the crop, then that would be probably the most scientific way. And it has been established through the science across the world, not only in India. We will talk about how it is happening in the global world also. So the customization is nothing but a fertilizer designed for a particular area and for a particular crop is called customized fertilizer. And how did we do it? We took the soil data, we collected the irrigation water data, the samples, and analyzed it. We also collected the plant data and also the yield, what is the current yield level there, so that you are exactly able to calculate that how much nutrient has been removed based on the productivity level in that area by the crop, and how much has been applied through the fertilizers, and how much has been extra mining of the soil which has happened. So putting all these things, there are scientific tools available like QEFT, STCR. QEFT is quantitative evaluation of fertilizer recommendation for tropical soils. STCR is soil test crop response, that is Indian model. And then CRK, which is crop response knowledge. That is the tacit knowledge which you have that, across the river, the behavior of the crop is like that. So some amount of that experiential knowledge is also put in to design the customized fertilizer. So all these scientific approaches are put together to design the customized fertilizer. Huge amount of database is used. Just to gather the database, what we had done in the past in Tata Chemicals was that this is the 31 districts of Uttar Pradesh, that is the North India. And in this, what we did is that we did georeference sampling. And to do the georeference sampling, if you just blow up that area to have a better understanding, we formed soil grids 1 kilometer by 1 kilometer apart, which is translating into 100 hectares. So for each 100 hectares, we assume that the fertility status is homogeneous, which scientifically may not be a correct answer to give, but this is what we could do the best. So we collected one sample from each hectare, and like that, and this was georeference. We used the GPS to reach that place so that the database is there and you can revisit after 3 years to validate what dynamic changes in the soil fertility has happened. So these are the points from where the data has been collected. These are the coordinates of the, the GPS, suggesting that you can go to the same location again and again whenever you wish. And after it has the data, soil samples has been analyzed, this is the NPK status of 31 districts. You can very clearly see how the fertility status is varying. The upper part is the bluish color is showing the status, that's a sugarcane area, and the reddish one is the potato belt. So very clearly the fertility status is coming out for NPK. Now here the recommendation is uniform across the geography, whereas the status is something else. This is the zinc status. This is the boron status. In fact, UP government took our data to make a recommendation for boron, otherwise they were not agreeing to the boron deficiency. So after we submitted the data, then only the boron recommendation was made by the UP government. And this is iron deficiency. This is copper, and this is manganese. So all this data has gone into designing the customized fertilizer grades. So these are the grades which has been approved by Government of India, which we started manufacturing. Now just couple of points I wanted to make, these are important points. Always there is a debate that, you collected the soil sample, you are a private company, how do I believe, because, we believe only what government says. So we got into this mode and, collated the data and tried making a comparison with the apex body in the country, which is Indian Institute of Soil Science, Bhopal. So what we did was that we compared it, and finally we came to the understanding that this is how the comparison is. That almost our data and the Indian Institute of Soil Science, Bhopal data is almost matching with minor difference. This is for only 31 districts. The other point which I missed telling in the slide back was that We collected the soil samples in 2008. Then after 5 years, we went for back check. We used GPS to reach the same place, collected the sample again, just to find out how the fertility status has changed. And then it was again repeated 3 years later. So in 2017-18, that data is not here. But the point I'm trying to drive home is that 2008, 2013-14, and then 2016-17, there is no change in the fertility status. I'm not suggesting that it happens across the geography, it happens across India, but these 31 districts, we have the data, we have the kind of knowledge that yes, in 10 years' time, there is no change in the soil fertility status because cropping pattern is not changing, same paddy wheat rotation, same sugarcane, same potato. As a result, recommending that every year you should go for soil analysis may not make sense in these 31 districts. This is just comparison of, the data with UP government data. And there was a very wide difference. So like we compared with Indian Institute of Soil Science, we found there is hardly any difference. But when we compared our zinc data with UP government data, we found a lot of difference. This was formula. This is the customized fertilizer bag, which was taken to the market. Some pictures of that. And then based on this, there were similar efforts made by Coromandel, by Nagarjuna, by Deepak Fertilizers. The result has been that when you customize the fertilizer, different companies' data I've tried to put together, and performance has been similar. There is absolutely no doubt that, the yield level improves when you customize, and the final slide is this, that in paddy we got about 27% increase in the yield. In wheat, it is 20%. In the case of sugarcane and potato, while the fertilizer dose is reducing, there is an increase in the yield you are getting. So there is a double benefit. Your fertilizer recommendation is reducing and yield is also increasing. So it's a double advantage. Now, such a promising technology, a lot of trials were conducted. Promising technology, so much convenience to the farmer. He is getting the economic benefit, and micronutrient deficiency is totally addressed by this approach. But the fact is, this is how the sales behaved. So we thought that, farmers will queue up and buy customized fertilizer, but it didn't happen. And we've tried 4 or 5 years. After that, we called it a day that, yes, management decided that probably this project will not go beyond, and therefore, this plant is shut at the moment, and it is not in use anymore. However, the other companies is still pursuing the matter. But this sales data is only for, Tata Chemicals, which we tried to take it to the market. Here, the point is that, my own experience of working closely with this project is that whenever you introduce a new product, a new type of fertilizer, you need to have patience, because the Indian farmer mindset is, it's very difficult to de-educate the farmer and, bring them to use customized fertilizer. They are so much obsessed with using DAP, NPK, urea, that they don't pick up the concept so easily in spite of every strength in this approach. So after 3-4 years, we did see the symptom of success, and farmers were coming around, especially those farmers who have progressive mind. They came around and started adopting customized fertilizer use. So we have seen the growth, but management patience went out. As a result, they said, no, I don't think it's going to succeed, and therefore, the project was put off. So the point is that until unless you have the patience of 5 to 7 years in working with the farmers, I think one should not attempt this kind of innovative approach. That's the conclusion which I drive. So you need to have a larger patience, and it will succeed, but you need to pursue relentlessly and without giving it up. It will definitely succeed. As I said, globally, if you look at, the trend is that whole world is moving towards customized fertilizer. Now this data, the source is internet searches and getting the, different acquaintances and collecting the data from there, because there is no very credible source of data available on this. What we are seeing here is that China, there are 4,500 plants. At least 12 of them I have myself visited. So more than 80% of the fertilizer used is, especially the basal application, is through customized route. Other countries, you can see how they are progressing. And where we are, we started first plant, and also after 4-5 years of effort, it has been shut. So that's the point here, which we wanted to make. There are two types of challenges which this particular good fertilizer is facing. One is the manufacturing challenge, which is basically the purchase of raw material, because here, India has a policy to subsidize fertilizer. Now urea, DAP, NPKs, and MOP, they are all subsidized fertilizer. And these are the raw material to manufacture customized fertilizer. And the uniqueness of customized fertilizer policy is that, as I said yesterday, in 2008, March 2008, first time Government of India decided to allow mixing micronutrient with subsidized fertilizer. Till then, it was a criminal offense. If you mix subsidized fertilizer with non-subsidized fertilizer, you'll be put behind bars without any opportunity for bail. That's the law. In 2008, this policy was decided, and then, the permission was given. And after that, the policy says that customized fertilizer manufacturers are free to use subsidized fertilizer to manufacture customized fertilizer. So you can buy urea at subsidized rate, you can buy DAP at subsidized rate, MOP at subsidized rate, and then mix zinc, boron, sulfur into it and make customized fertilizer. The moment you add these micronutrients, the cost of the product goes up, because there is a conversion cost. There is a lot of energy requirement to grind urea, DAP, because they are different granulometries. So grinding takes a lot of energy, and therefore the conversion cost is about 15 to 20%. Yes, sir. I think I've just reached to the end. So 15 to 20% is the conversion cost. As a result, the price of customized fertilizer is always higher than what DAP and other products are available in the marketplace. So that's the first thing, because of which farmers are not sort of very keen to straight away adopt customized fertilizer. The purchase of this raw material, subsidized raw material, is such a cumbersome process that you have to go to the state government, seek their approval, then go and buy from a retailer. And a retailer who sells about 1,000 tons in a year, you are buying 50,000 tons of material, so it is practically not possible, but that's the law. So there are some challenges in purchasing the customized raw material for manufacturing customized fertilizer. Right technology, capital cost, because of that, the cost of product goes up. I think this should be my last slide. The other challenges is that, the policy support which is available to customize, like most of the fertilizer, we are consuming about 56 million tons of fertilizer annually. So all these fertilizers, and this is all subsidized. Now this 56 million tons of fertilizer has a policy support, because of which such a volume is being used. Whereas now all these 56 million tons of fertilizer, where the subsidy is given on finished product. Customized fertilizer is one fertilizer where subsidy is given on raw material. So you can yourself see that, there is a, different sort of treatment given to different product. Whereas urea, DAP is all, I would say it's a raw material. Customized fertilizer is soil health card based, most scientific way of manufacturing customized fertilizer. And you don't give subsidy on the finished product, instead you are giving only on raw material. So that's the major bottleneck, because of which customized fertilizer is not able to progress in spite of whatever mind has been applied, whatever effort has been done. So other points, of course, typically when we don't get anything done, so we blame the government. So we are also blaming government approvals are delayed and all that. So that's a normal thing, but I think inadequate policy support is the main reason, because of which, and as I said, de-education of the farmers. So this is one fertilizer where you are putting all the nutrients together. It's a convenience to the farmer that he need not worry. Just read the, take the yellow bag, green bag for potato, yellow bag for sugarcane, which life is very simple. So that's about customized fertilizer. If you have any question, I'll be happy to answer. Thank you so much.
Mr. Singh, you have not mentioned the customized fertilizer which your company is manufacturing or has developed.
Oh, I don't know. Did I make any controversy? So many hands are going up. Yeah, what was the question? Please repeat that.
Yeah, I have a question.
Sir.
That which customized fertilizer is being manufactured by or developed by your company?
As of now, as I said, this all work was done in Tata Chemicals, and now this plant is shut, so nothing is being done on this. But other companies, like Indogulf Fertilizers, I know, they are selling about 10,000 tons of customized fertilizer.
What is composition?
The grade is for potato, for paddy, 2 grades. But the grade, exact formulation, I may not be able to spell out because it's their product. It's a company-specific product.
So it is a secret.
No, it's not a secret. Like I said about, my formulations. So similar. It's like if I say 8, 16, 24.
It has 1 micronutrient, 2 micronutrient, 3.
It has got sulfur, zinc, and boron.
Sulfur, zinc, and boron. Okay, thank you. Now, I invite questions from the delegates.
Yeah, Mr. BP, very good presentation.
Thank you.
In the process of the customized fertilizers launch, you have gained a lot of knowledge and there are investments.
Yes.
Now, after Indorama, is there any rethinking to these customized fertilizers? Because the knowledge and investment should not go waste. And there are benefits obvious.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, I would say early days. I can't say. As of now, we are more into consolidating the business which is acquired from Tata Chemicals. Really, as of now, there is no discussion on customized fertilizer, but going forward, it might be possible.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Very good presentation, Dr. Singh. I really enjoyed the presentation. There are few points. Customization is good, but customization is very good, but we talk about a very site-specific nutrient management.
Yes.
I think this is one step ahead for the site-specific management, as earlier we were not able to do so. But what is important is raw data.
Yes.
I have done whole Uttar Pradesh except 2 districts of the Bundelkhand. And in no districts I could find that boron deficiency is more than 18%. But in your case, I could see this is 84%. Now, all districts are showing 84% boron deficiency. Scientifically, it is not possible because all the soils are having pH more than 8.2 or more than 7.5. And the moreover, then you told that you have matched with the data of Indian Institute of Soil Science. I don't know from whom you got that data and which year you have performed this study. The second thing, which method you have used. Because in hot water soluble boron, what happened? Flushing is an important point. So if you have a little bit, your hands is shaken in the flushing, then no reading will come and you will get all samples deficient only.
Right.
That is important.
Yeah.
So I think there is need to check those data.
Certainly.
Yeah.
Thank you. I think it's a very scientific question, and I had already said that I'm not a scientist. So my colleague, Dr. Subhendu, is here, fortunately. So maybe would you wish to make any comment on what Dr. Shukla asked?
Thanks. If you see the comparative chart with Mr. VB Singh showed, Dr. Shukla, the part of the boron was not matching.
Yes.
First of all. So it is not that Indian Institute of Soil Science was having similar data. And when we compared the data, the number of data points in boron was very less at that point of time. It might have grown because it was in 2008-9 data. So it might have come afterwards. What we did is, obviously, is hot water soluble, and for analysis, ICP-OES was used. And this data was cross-checked because when we went to state government, they were initially very reluctant to accept that. Then they, because we had fortunately the repository of the soil samples, it was around 50,000 soil samples we had. And selectively they took the soil samples to the reference labs, because it is the state government with which we were closely associated with.